I sit at the edge of my baby's crib, fingering the soft blanket I folded just this morning. Sunlight spills across the nursery, catching the tiny mobiles I carefully strung above the crib. And yet, I can't shake the chill crawling up my spine. My phone buzzes on the dresser, a vibration that feels like it's echoing my heartbeat. It's him. My brother, Ryan. I shouldn't answer. I shouldn't even look. But curiosity, that old, foolish sisterly curiosity, wins. The screen flashes his name, smug and familiar. I think about that day in the hospital. The day I brought my daughter into the world, a moment I thought was sacred, only to come home and find chaos. My nursery, once soft pastel perfection, was shredded, every wall scratched, every toy broken, every hope I had for peace trampled by his anger. I close my eyes and breathe, feeling the weight of my silk blouse against my skin, the scent of my coffee still warm beside me. I've built a life since then, calm, composed, successful, but that memory claws at the edges of my mind. I finally swipe to answer, my voice steady even though my chest tightens. Hello. The line crackles. Maddie, we need to talk, Ryan says, and just like that, the past storms into my present. The hospital smells still haunt me, even now, antiseptic, baby powder, and that faint metallic tang that makes you feel too alive and too fragile all at once. I remember gripping the hospital blanket, my daughter swaddled in my arms, feeling every ache of labor mixed with the dizzying joy of finally meeting her. And then, the call that changed everything. I'll take care of the nursery. I thought he meant well. I thought he cared. When I came home 2 days later, I froze at the threshold. My nursery, my sanctuary, was unrecognizable. Wallpaper ripped, tiny clothes shredded, crib slats chewed through. My heart thumped painfully, the lump in my throat almost suffocating me. I clutched the baby to my chest, trying to shield her from the chaos he'd created. Why? I whispered, voice breaking. The echo of my words seemed too small in the ruined room. Ryan stood there, chest tight, eyes cold. You never do what I say. I couldn't let it be perfect for her if you weren't going to listen. His words cut like glass. I remember my hands trembling, fingers digging into the soft fabric of the blanket, trying to hold onto something solid. Tears welled, not just for the destruction, but for the betrayal. The brother I'd loved my whole life had turned into someone unrecognizable. That night, my grandmother's words came back to me, whispered over the phone from hundreds of miles away. Maddie, sometimes the hardest people in our lives force us to find our own strength. Protect your heart, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. I clutched her locket, worn and warm in my palm, letting her words seep into me. It felt like a lifeline, a quiet hand pulling me towards something bigger than this anger, bigger than the ruined walls. By the time the sun rose, I had made my decision. I couldn't control Ryan. I couldn't undo his actions. But I could control myself, my life, my daughter, and the world I would build for her. One untouched by anyone else's bitterness. The first few months after that night blurred together, endless diapers, sleepless nights, and a constant hum of doubt in my mind. I remember staring at my daughter's tiny fingers curling around mine and thinking, I can't let anyone else decide our story. That was the moment I promised myself, no more depending on anyone who would betray me, no more letting Ryan's chaos define our lives. I started small. Freelance design work from my cramped apartment, answering emails with a newborn on my lap. I felt the weight of judgment from everyone who assumed a new mother couldn't do it all, but I learned to turn their skepticism into fuel. I worked through exhaustion, through tears, through self-doubt. Each completed project was a victory, a silent testament that I could survive, thrive, and protect my daughter at the same time. Then I met Claire Donovan, a senior editor in the publishing world, during a freelance assignment. Claire had that rare kind of confidence that didn't intimidate, but inspired. She saw my talent, encouraged me to think bigger, to chase projects that scared me, and most importantly, to believe I was capable of more than just surviving. There were nights I wanted to give up. Nights when my eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets while my daughter cooed beside me. Nights when I wondered if anyone would ever notice the sacrifices I made. And yet, slowly, victories came. My first high-paying client, my first published design spread, the first check that felt like a real investment in our future. I kept it quiet. No Facebook posts boasting of success, no Instagram highlights of my growing career. I wanted the security for my daughter first, a life shielded from judgment and toxic family expectations. The world outside didn't need to know how strong we were becoming. And secretly, that growing independence tasted sweeter than any praise or recognition. I'd often return to that locket from my grandmother, holding it in my hand during moments of doubt. It reminded me that strength wasn't just surviving, it was building something lasting, something immune to betrayal. Every small win became a brick in the life I was creating, a life Ryan could never touch. By the time my daughter's first birthday arrived, I had a thriving little business, a small but elegant apartment, and a quiet sense of pride that no one, not even my brother, could shatter. The seeds of independence had grown into roots strong enough to weather any storm. I hadn't seen Ryan in years, not since that day my nursery was destroyed. And yet, here he was, standing at my apartment door, unsure, hesitant, as though he'd walked into a stranger's world. "Hi, Maddie." His voice carried that familiar mix of guilt and bravado. I let him step inside. My daughter was playing quietly in the corner, her laughter like sunlight spilling into the room. Every corner of my apartment told a story of care, precision, and resilience. Hand-painted art I'd commissioned, custom shelving that displayed our books and memories, soft pastel touches in the nursery that I'd rebuilt stronger than before. The crib looked perfect now, each mobile intact, the walls a serene blend of color and warmth. I gestured to a chair. "Sit," I said softly. Ryan's eyes scanned the space, disbelief spreading across his face. You did all this?" I nodded, sitting across from him, calm and collected. "Yes. All of this, every detail. The nursery, the apartment, my career, everything. Without your help, without your approval, and certainly without your permission." He swallowed hard. I didn't know you could." I let him struggle for words. Let him sit in the discomfort he had created all those years ago. This wasn't about revenge. This was about truth. "You see, Ryan, when you destroyed the nursery, you thought you were hurting me. You didn't realize you were forcing me to grow, to fight, to create a life that was untouchable by you or anyone else." He shifted uncomfortably, eyes darting around the room, taking in the crisp lines of my office space, the awards on the shelves, and my daughter's laughter echoing off the walls. "Maddie." No, I raised my hand gently. "Not yet. Sit and listen." I told him everything, the freelance nights, the mentorship with Claire Donovan, the small wins that turned into a thriving business, the independence I'd built piece by piece. Every word landed with clarity, each sentence a mirror reflecting the years he'd taken for granted. The silence after my story was deafening. Ryan's jaw was tight, his face pale. For the first time, he didn't have an answer, didn't have a defense. He could only absorb. Finally, I spoke again. "I forgave you in my heart a long time ago. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean I let you back into my life on your terms. This is our reality now, mine and my daughter's. The life you tried to ruin? You'll never touch it again." He nodded slowly, a mixture of shame and awe washing over him. I watched him absorb it all, the enormity of my resilience reflected in his eyes, the realization that I had outgrown the chaos he once controlled. I leaned back, crossing my arms, feeling the quiet authority I'd earned over the years. Ryan sat across from me, tense, aware for the first time that I was no longer the sister he could manipulate. The balance of power had shifted, and I intended to make that clear, firmly but without malice. "Ryan," I began, my voice calm but unyielding, "you want to be part of my life, part of hers. That's possible, but only under certain conditions." He swallowed, nodding slowly, clearly bracing himself. "First," I said, "you must acknowledge what you did. No excuses. No deflection. You destroyed a sanctuary that belonged to my child. You hurt someone you claim to love. Until you understand that fully, there is no moving forward. He flinched, guilt flashing across his face, but I continued. Second, you must respect boundaries. That nursery, this apartment, my career, all of it is off limits unless I grant access. Any attempt to undermine or control again, and the door closes permanently. Understand? Yes, he whispered. Third, I went on, softer now. You need to pursue your own growth. Stop letting anger and bitterness define you. Seek help if you need it. Find your own path instead of trying to rewrite mine. I watched him absorb each condition, and I saw the first flicker of understanding, the first spark of reflection. I wanted him to succeed, to change, but only if he respected the rules of love and trust that I had established. Finally, I addressed the most important boundary, my daughter. She is my priority. You can be a part of her life only if you prove you can be trustworthy, gentle, and supportive. Nothing less will ever be tolerated. The room was quiet except for the soft giggle of my daughter playing nearby. I looked at Ryan and felt the mix of compassion and resolve, the balance I had fought so hard to achieve. He wasn't being punished. He was being given a chance to grow into a better person on my terms. This isn't about revenge, I said, eyes steady on his. It's about respect, about creating a life where love is safe and trust is earned. If you can meet these conditions, maybe, just maybe, you'll find your place here. But make no mistake, the power belongs to me now. Always. He nodded again, this time with a measure of humility I hadn't seen in years. And for the first time, I felt the weight of the past lift slightly, replaced by the strength of my boundaries, the safety of my daughter, and the power of my own resilience. Weeks passed, and change, subtle but real, began to show. Ryan started small, attending parenting classes, offering to help without overstepping boundaries, and genuinely listening when I spoke. The anger that had once defined him seemed to soften, replaced by a cautious humility. I watched him, not with triumph, but with measured hope. My daughter's laughter filled the apartment in a way that no chaos could ever drown out. I sometimes caught her reaching for the locket my grandmother had given me, a quiet reminder of the strength and love that had carried us both this far. Every time, I felt that circle close, past, present, and future intertwined in resilience and care. I reflected on those early days in the hospital, the devastation of the destroyed nursery, and the pain of betrayal. But I also remembered the nights I stayed awake building a life for us, the mentorship that guided me, the small victories that became pillars of independence. Every scar, every sleepless night, every tear had led me to this moment, a life rebuilt stronger than before. I allowed myself to feel gratitude for my grandmother's wisdom, for Claire's guidance, and for the inner resolve I had discovered. I realized that strength wasn't just in surviving Ryan's cruelty, it was in creating a world for my daughter where love, safety, and respect were guaranteed. I stood in the nursery one evening, watching my daughter sleep peacefully, the soft glow of the lamp casting warm light across the walls. I held the locket in my hand once more, feeling its weight and history. A quiet smile spread across my face. We made it. We really did. And as I whispered to her, to myself, to the years we had endured, I knew the truth, loud and unwavering. I am her mother. I am strong. I am unbreakable. And no one will ever take that from us.